Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Star Citizen Addicts Anonymous. Today I have an interview with Eric Wingman Peterson. Welcome aboard, Eric.
Hey! Hi everybody! What's up, Nikki? How you doing?
Doing great. So, I mean, it was a bear trying to get you tied down, but after seeing how busy you are, I'm lucky that you even took the few minutes that you're going to take with me today.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. I mean, we are busy, but as everybody knows, doing things like this is part of our job. It's very important. So, happy to do it.
Good. Well, I'm going to get right ahead so we can get you right on to the, helping along the dogfighting module so we all have something to do for the spring.
That's right.
All right. So, can you tell me a little bit about the first computer you ever gamed on?
Oh, first computer I ever gamed on? The Apple IIe. I think it was like my sophomore or junior year in high school. I took a computer class and learned how to program in BASIC on the Apple IIe, and we were playing games and moving pixels around and creating stupid noises. So yeah, and then I played on the Commodore 64, and yeah, a lot of old stuff. And then I remember going to, like, they had a junior college that we were gaming on their mainframe. I played Zork and Star Trek, which is an 8x8 grid. So I've been gaming for quite a while.
Sounds like we're probably in the same age group. We had the SUNY computer in my computer class in school,
right? State
University of New York, and I found my first computer game on that, which was hockey. You would type in the two teams, and it would spit out like $16,000 worth of paper telling you the play-by-play.
Yeah, that was, look, it was so much fun. I would leave with reams of paper, and my buddies and I would sit there and compare, who did what, and how, did we launch our photon torpedoes through the shields? Did we still make the hits? It was awesome. It was a good time. Okay,
so can you tell me about the first game that really captivated you and drew you in so much you were addicted to it?
I think it's probably Ultima, the original. I've still got the copy, but I remember I think I was at that junior college. I was actually teaching computer science. I was on computer science scholarship and was teaching intro to computers, and Ultima came out. And I remember just moving that guy around the screen going and just going into different encounters and going, oh my God, this is incredible. And that actually inspired me to write. I wrote a game called Quintown, which never got published, and it was very similar to, it was a word-based textual game. So yeah, I remember Ultima 1, I guess, would be the first one I got addicted to.
Okay. And way back then, it sounds like you were already you were already teaching in the computer industry. Did you think that you were going to be in the gaming industry at that point?
No, the funny thing is, I was on computer science scholarship, and I for some reason had this weird thinking that eventually computers would program themselves and that we would be out of a job. So, and I'd always wanted to be like some sort of sportscaster. So I went to school for that. I switched majors to broadcast journalism and kept gaming, of course, but got my degree in that.
Can you tell me about the first project that you worked on in the gaming industry?
Well, outside of the one I did, which was Quintown on my own, I got to be friends with Chris Roberts and Richard Garriott and all those guys back at Ultima. I wasn't really working there. I was sort of helping Todd Porter on this game, Knights of Legend. Was helping him with some design stuff. And so Chris and I had always talked about, getting together and working in the industry. But I think back then the pay was like $3 an hour or something. And I was bartending and I was making pretty good money. So it wasn't working out. And finally, I think it was 90, 91, 92, somewhere in there. Chris and I finally hooked up on, I worked on Wing Commander 3. I think I did the voice on Wing Commander 3 for Primate. So that's when I got in the industry, was at Origin Systems with Chris. And I was actually an associate producer on this Privateer 2. I got help on Wing 3 and Wing 4 a little bit, but most of my work was on Privateer 2, which got canceled. And another game that Aaron did called The Darkening got renamed Privateer 2. Marketing, they wanted to capitalize on the Privateer name, and that game was amazing.
Oh, that game was amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And the funny thing is, that's the core of the Foundry 42 team. It's those guys.
Awesome.
And then I got to work with them on Starlancer, so it's super fun.
Another game I really like.
Oh, good, okay. Good.
Yeah, I play it now. I pulled my copy out of the closet and did everything I could to shoehorn it back into Windows to play it again. It's
I know.
Pretty fun.
It's a nightmare to get it to work in the new stuff. But we did here is I've actually got a bunch of old PCs. So and Ben does that too. He collects and builds these old PCs. So we we have an old machine here that's in our war room, which is kind of our conference room / game room, where people crash when they're working late night and they need a nap. That kind of thing. We've got an old computer in there that plays the old games from the early '90s and stuff, so we can still play those games without having to. I think it's Windows XP, so. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I rely on good old games for most of that stuff.
Yeah, well, that's where Conquest Frontier Wars resides right now. It's good old games. Just saying, get your copy now.
All right, I'll go get my copy right after this.
Yeah, right.
I may buy everything.
I totally felt sleazy saying that, but but it's on good old games.
What's the difference? I have been pushing all of Chris's old games on there. Why not push yours too? It was a great game.
Yeah, it is a good game. It was Chris's game too. He worked on it, so it was myself and Chris. And actually, the original concept was Aaron. So it's funny because Chris, Aaron, and I have worked together for 20 plus years. And Aaron and I. The funny thing with Aaron is he was my boss on Starlancer, and then I was his boss at Warthog, and now we're peers at Cloud Imperium. So. It's never really mattered, to be honest. It's just whoever's in charge at the time.
It's amazing how each one of you have touched the lives of so many of us at different games that you've brought out. Now you're all back together to pretty much rock the PC gaming world again. So
it's amazing. It as amazing as it sounds to you guys. It's even for us. It's fantastic. I mean, you always hear people saying stories about don't work with your friends and. Man, I've just not had that experience. I've been able to work with my friends and loved every minute of it, and we've done some amazing stuff. We've got on each other's nerves from time to time, but if you love the guys, you're with them, you have each other's back. You're like brothers. And two of them actually are brothers, so it's gonna be at the end. It's gonna be really, really special because you are able to be honest with each other to the point where that you're just talking about the game and you're not trying to squash anybody. You can be brutally honest because that you have each other's back.
Okay. So I want to ask you a question about your work. I know that you left the project, but freelancer, when you went over to Digital Anvil and you made that phone call to, or sent that email off to Bill Gates, did it change what the game was originally supposed to be when you finally partnered with Microsoft on it?
Well, no, when we partnered with them. And on Freelancer, I did very little work on that, to be honest. That was mostly Chris. I was working on Starlancer and Conquest, but we were a small company, so I know the team really well and the story. No, Microsoft had given us free reign to do the games we wanted to make. Where it changed was when Chris and myself and others left. When Microsoft bought us. A lot of us didn't really want to be part of something big. It's kind of a similar situation to what we're doing now. Publishers are fine, but man, there's a lot of politics involved, and it's a lot of middle management and people. It's just a lot of bloat, and so Microsoft is a good company, but they give a lot of power to their testing arm, and we would get design decisions for our games made from testers, and all we cared about was making the game better. If it had to be tested again, so what? It makes the game better,
Right.
And so they were making monetary decisions on how much testing they'd have to do, and that was sort of a problem for us. So that's when the game changed. Back to the original question is when Microsoft took it over, and then Phil Wattenberger and Jorg Newman, who did a good job getting it out. It's still a great game. It's probably they had to. I don't want to say dumb it down. They had to scope it down quite a bit to get it to work within Microsoft's timeframes.
Okay. So we'll move on to just what your most memorable moment was working in the game industry before coming on board with the Star Citizen project.
Most memorable game-making moment. Well, there's... I've been doing this a lot. I think, I've had a lot of fun with friends. running around Origin System playing Green Guns with people was fantastic. Are we talking about, seminal moment in making games, or are we talking about just... memorable moments overall with the process?
Overall. Sandy gave an example of her working with one of the producer or directors that she worked with before Chris. So
I think the moments are the moments where you get to work with Chris and Aaron are magical. I mean, it's just they're friends, and and now it's Chris, it's Aaron, it's Simon, it's Nick, it's Phil, it's Derek, it's it's Michael Morlan. I mean, Michael and I have known each other for 35 years, so the fact that we're getting to
awesome.
I know the fact that we're getting to work together, and it's just fantastic to work with friends and know that you have each other's. You're there for each other. It's a very important thing. I mean, because there's a lot of hours you put into these places to make these things special. And honestly, I almost feel like you have to kind of like each other. You have to kind of get along. to get that extra 5 to 10%, which makes the game magical and special, you have to have that level of commitment, and each one of us are holding each other accountable, and you know, and that just makes it special, I think. So working with Chris and Aaron, I think, would probably be the best thing I could say.
Okay. How early did you come on board the Star Citizen project?
Well, you know, it's funny because Chris and I have been working together for a few years, trying to get some deals together for similar games, like space games. We're trying to work with some other publishers, EA and some others, and so we've been working together off and on for a couple years, you know, trying to get companies up and running. I came on to Star Citizen, helped him out a little bit while he was making the demo for the year or so he was off doing it, but I was working, trying to get my own thing going, and some other, you know, working for some other companies. So I'd pop in every now and then, help him with budgets, help him with some design stuff, and wherever I could. But when I think I officially came completely on board August or September before the launch, before we went on the up on stage. It said, let's,
that was
you know,
2010?
Yeah, 2012. I mean, I was on board, but I was like still hedging my bets, trying to make sure. I have a family. I wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure we were going to get funded because we've been pitching space games, and you know, publishers were saying nobody wants those. We're like, well, they really do, and so. But I was always waiting for Chris to make sure that it happened and get it. And once it did, I mean, look, I held back on a very lucrative job offer to see what would happen with Star Citizen first, and yeah, didn't really tell my wife. Just sort of sat there saying, "Oh, they haven't offered anything," and they really had. And I actually took less money to stay here because I wanted to work with Chris to make this really cool product. So I officially came on board, I guess you'd say September 2012, but just before the launch. I mean, I was there at the October 10th event. I was there editing the PowerPoint for the presentation, like I don't know, 30 seconds before it went on, and you know, I'm the one who set up the live streams, and yeah, so I was there from the beginning.
I kick myself in the butt every single day, not you know, for not finding out about this sooner. With all that I've followed Chris and the games that he makes, that it was out there for a year before I even jumped on. So I just love the fact that you guys are building this.
Well, he was very secretive about it. I mean, you know, he had planned to like launch it earlier, and like anything, you know, it takes a while to get the demo up and running to where he was satisfied with it. So by the time October rolled around, I think we launched the website 42 days before October 10th to give a build up, you know, the significance of 42. Yeah. And he didn't really tell anybody, and then he went off and did this whole big press tour to have it all hit at once. And brilliant strategy. David Swafford was there making this up with Chris. It was really good, and Sandy too, for that matter. And they just went out, excuse me, went out and got this thing all set up, and then put the website up with a countdown. And so people were discovering it, but they didn't really know what it was. So I think that was really kind of a smart way of going about it.
Awesome way of going about it. So, softball question, which you could answer in a very short manner, I hope. What are your responsibilities for CIG right now?
Yeah, that's not a short answer. I am the president of production, or basically studio director for the Austin office. We're in charge of integration for all the different bits and pieces that go into the main game. We also do the hangar and the persistent universe. And we manage some of the outsourcers, the art outsourcers. We also work with behavior on the planet side environments. So anything going into the game eventually makes its way here to be integrated by the server team, by the back-end team. So quite a bit, you know.
I know. The only reason I said it, asked the question that way, is it was the longest answer for Sandy's interview when I asked her what her responsibilities were.
It's tough to quantify what all your responsibilities are, because I think we have about 45 people here right now. I manage all of them. I manage the teams. I work with design with Chris and Rob and the rest, and do that. And I work with Aaron on some of the, you know, we all touch a lot of different areas. We all have varied experiences. Like, for instance, I'm helping a lot with the performance capture, or at least, you know, giving some guidance on that, because, you know, I did that for a couple years before coming here, or you know, was in both of the companies we're talking to about it. So it's pretty cool.
Well, you just said performance capture, so you're working with the motion capture of what they're doing inside of, you know, getting in and out of the ships and stuff like that. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, that's okay. No, that's actually that's mocap. That's part of it.
Yeah.
Performance capture is when you capture that data but you also capture the facial data, and you you capture the eye lines, and you capture the audio. So there's 3 components. It's the voice, the face, and the movements, and that's all one performance. So what you do is you have multiple cameras in a mocap setting with a facial animation, facial capture system around you, like they did in Avatar, and then you also have a microphone. Lavaliere mic, is that what it's called? Lavaliere. I know, but I'm looking at you, Mike. What's it called? Lavaliere. The boom mic. This thing up here. But I mean, but the boom mic or lavalier mic, and then so you get all 3 of those components, and they all mesh so that lips move at the same time, eye lines match up. So it's almost like blocking out a play or a movie. And we're planning to do all of our cinematics that way.
Okay.
So they look more real. It's incredible. The level of detail is much higher than normal.
I can't wait to see. All right, so I'm picking and choosing because I know that you are in a rush today.
That's okay.
I want to hit on just another piece of that. So the people that are developing the character models are underneath your studio, right?
Yep.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how that's going. Are we going to be able to see female character models anytime soon?
I don't know when you're going to see them, but I know we've got an approved a female character model already that we're working on. But now we need some clothing and some accessories and some hair and other things. So, it takes time. All these things take a little time. I don't think it's too far away, but yes is the answer. Soon, but not, I'm not going to be able to give an actual date.
Yeah, every time I'm the
slippery.
Little bald dude, I'm like, no, why don't they have a girl character yet?
Oh yeah, they're coming. We're definitely gonna have females, males. Absolutely, all together. Yep.
All right, so let's go back to the question that was next in line after the one I asked about your, what your responsibilities are. The crowdfunding is it's actually changing the way games get made and even movies these days. How has crowdfunding changed the development process for you?
Well, that's a really interesting question. So, it's, I would say it hasn't changed it a whole lot in the sense that instead of telling publishers what you're up to, now you're telling, hundreds of thousands or hopefully millions of publishers what you're up to.
Right.
It has added a little level of communication. There's some time that you have to put aside each day for things like this and things that are important to the community. You need to keep them involved and keep them active and let them know what's going on because they've entrusted you with their wallets essentially, and so we feel a sense of honor to let them know what's going on and be part of it. We would have to normally do that with publishers, but I don't think we'd be as upfront with we would be holding more back in that regard. We're a lot closer to the edge of what we're up to with the crowdfunding and at the same time, it's super energizing. So it's like, we went to Germany and showed the hangar, and oh my God, the fans were amazing, and it was totally unexpected, and it's unbelievably cool. I just can't say it any other way than that. It's changing the way things are done. It's energizing, and it's also, it's just cool.
I'm very excited to see it take off because there's a ton of games that are being made this way now all of a sudden. And Chris is picking and choosing or using the comlink to feed us some of the ones that he thinks are going to be the most successful.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with that.
Kingdom Come, for instance, and others like that.
I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. And the thing about, I'll tell you what, I've probably funded, 30 Kickstarters, and I have yet to get one of those games downloaded. I know that like Banner Saga's done and others that are done, but I've just done it because I want to support what they're up to, because I want to, how many times are people that come from other industries that are only worried about numbers trying to tell people what's in a cool game? We were doing this rock and roll shooter long before Guitar Hero called Johnny Whatever, and I think it's out there on YouTube, some of the early bits of it. And we would go into meetings and marketing people would be like, oh my God, this is incredible, incredible, incredible. And then one person would go, well, it's not really Medal of Honor or Call of Duty, is it? And you're like, no, it's a musical adventure game, and what? And so you just would have people that you end up in a cycle of repetitive products. There's no innovation anymore. It's it's NBA 2K11, 12, 13, FIFA, whatever. Now I love
World of Warcraft.
Well, I love World of Warcraft, but I mean these are all you end up doing the same things over and over, and then genres die. Like I've been in the industry long enough to remember they were telling us RPGs were dead. You'll never have RPGs again. Nobody wants to play them. And then Neverwinter Nights came out and started to reinvent it, and now Oblivion and Skyrim, and now they're hot as Hades, right? And Shroud of the Avatar. And then they said, then I remember, do you remember the old, you can't play a first-person shooter on the console? What?
Yeah.
What? And that's 70% of the marketplace now. So, you know, some people...
Same game retread every year, though.
I think sometimes people get comfortable, and they just make decisions based on comfort rather than truly standing on the mountaintop and screaming and wondering why they're screaming. You need to take chances. And the thing that crowdfunding allows us to do is take those chances in an open forum and find out, lo and behold, there are hundreds of thousands and millions of people that feel just like...
you're answering that really cool.
They just feel just like us, right? They feel just like us. And we were told at EA and other places, you know what? Space games are dead. You know what? They are not dead. They're far from dead. They're just underserved. There's just nobody making a really good one. Well, now we are.
Yeah, I just got joined by a cat. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That is such a great answer. I love the enthusiasm you have when you answer that one. Well, it's great.
It's like being freed from a prison at times. You know, you sort of, you know, you sometimes pitching to these Greenlight meetings is pretty tough because you know that you're connecting on a gamer to gamer level, but you're pitching to people who aren't gamers for the most part, and yeah, and they generally are protecting their jobs. So if one person goes, I don't really get it, you know, then you're like, oh, it's over because nobody's going to stand up and be an evangelist for it. We can be evangelists for it, and we can have armies of people on our website being evangelists for it. And that's, you know, you don't see our ads on television. You don't see us, you know, on magazine or print cover stuff for the most part. Our army of people talking about the game are the citizens that are out there with us already.
Right.
And they're talking about it because they love it, and that's way more important than...
Well, you know that you have one of the most passionate fan bases right now because you are crowdfunded, so you're drawing in all those early adopters that are going to be out of this world for this game, and I can't believe how many people I've seen drawn into the game by that base. It's wonderful. I was dragged into the game by Scott Manley, who does the Kerbal Space Program videos.
Right.
I just love the energy in this group, and that leads to another question that, you know, how do you look at this group that's so passionate about the game, and how are you able to dissect which things are really the feelings of everybody or the feelings of just like a very select part of the base?
A vocal minority?
Yeah, like for instance, like every time you come out with a ship, it appeals to 70% of the people who half of them say nothing, but the 30% of the people that don't like it say the most, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like the Freelancer, you know, you could look at some ships like that.
Freelancer, I remember all kinds of...
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Let's not bring up them.
You know, we read the comments, and Chris is very diligent about it, I'm diligent about it, right? We all read them, Ben. And we look at it from a, well, a lot of people are talking about it, maybe it's only a certain percentage, and then we think, well, but we'll leave, some of these comments are really good, like the Freelancer cockpit, people were really complaining about the visibility in there, so it wasn't everybody complaining, but enough people were talking about it, which made us relook at it, and then we went, you know, they're right, let's take a look at what it would look like without that, is it better? And so our only goal is to make it better, and sometimes fans have suggestions that we haven't noticed, and so we sift through them. You know, that's our job. That's probably part of what makes us take a little longer on some things because we want that feedback. That's the feedback that makes the game better. I mean, otherwise we'd have put the game out and you'd have had people complaining about it and we'd have had to go back in and patch it after the fact. And you know, it's better to do it beforehand.
Well, I look at the game as kind of an evolving process over time, or the game evolving over time. When you look back at aircraft of World War II, you look at the P-47 Thunderbolt. In the beginning, the cockpit in that had poor visibility. Big giant columns and a big razor, you know, back that rode along the top of the fuselage. So when the pilot looked back, he couldn't see anything.
Right.
And later models of it were redesigned with a bubble canopy like the P-51D had, which in the beginning the P-51 didn't even have that cockpit. So what I was hoping that you would do there is take the comments, release the ships, and then, you know, there's a 2944 variant, a 2945 variant, and things come out.
Well, who's to say we're not going to do that?
Well, I know that you are. Well, I hope and I pray that you are.
Yeah,
but I mean, if you guys are in it for the long haul, you will do that.
Now you just mentioned a very important thing. In it for the long haul. I mean, my goal is that this is the last game I ever make, and it just is one that we make for the next 20 years.
My goal is to work with you guys.
Oh, there you go. Cool. That's a good goal.
Yeah. All right, so I want to ask the last two questions because I want to get you back to developing for us, and they have to do with some things that have gone on in the the last couple of days.
Okay.
Good things for everybody, I hope.
Okay.
So for me, Squadron 42 is a huge draw because I love the immersiveness of the games that Chris made when they were the story-driven games.
Right.
And Squadron 42 is that piece that's really dragging me into this. So we saw the Idris turned over to Manchester, and Aaron and his group took it from this tiny Corvette and made it probably into what's more like a frigate now, and we've got a bigger, better, badder ship. And now I read that they've already turned over the Gladiator and Retaliator. Now, because Squadron 42 is going to be episodic and such an important piece of the game as a whole, is this something that we're going to see with ships in the future? Are you guys getting them created and done and then turning them over to Manchester for work into the other game, the other part of the game?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to comment too much on what
I don't want you to give away things.
people are speculating, but
okay.
We've added Manchester in the last few months to make Squadron 42, right? And
Right.
as the story gets developed for that game, certain components they're going to need before other people, like before the Persistent universe, they need these things, these assets for their storyline, right? And so those things that are more important to them will probably be shuffled over to them to work on, versus the Persistent universe will be working on the longer tail things, or the dogfighting module, for instance. So, we're doing things in parallel. So it's not like something anybody planned to do, but it's one of those things that whoever needs it first, right, needs to take ownership of things. And so, yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well, you can. I'm not looking for you to give away things. That's the next question.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, you're working on so much stuff right now, from sending team members over to LA, which I hope to meet next week, to work on the dogfighting module, to working on, I guess your group somehow manages the planet-side module, and you're working on mocap. What things I don't want you to give away anything. I'm just saying, what things do you think are the next things that we're going to be talking about right after the dogfighting module is released, or is that going to be what we have for the next?
No, there's stuff coming up. There'll be, the dogfighting module is the next big thing, and we expect people to be playing that for a long time because it's going to be a very iterative process where ships will be added as they go. There'll be levels that will be added, game types will be added. So dogfighting is going to continually evolve, and I think that's primarily a lot of what this game is. So there's going to be a lot of people that will want to play that and get involved in that. But we have things like the social module, which is kind of like the planet side. It's kind of a beautiful corner, or where people can come hang out in a bar and visit each other's hangars. That's coming up. We've got a first-person shooter stuff. That'll be coming up. So there's a lot of stuff that'll be coming up, as we build this thing and tinker-toy it together for you guys to play. And then, of course, Squadron 42, and then the Persistent universe, the first, iteration of that. And there's a lot coming up. It's going to be, we want to get it to your hands as early as possible so we get the feedback on what works and what maybe doesn't work as soon as possible.
Okay. So I know that you guys are working on PBR and getting that out first and foremost, so you can have those elements in the dogfighting.
Yeah,
module,
you know what?
Right?
That got put in the main branch yesterday.
What does that mean?
Activated in all of the hangars, and everything we're working on now is PBR'd. We're in process of converting everything to PBR.
All right, so at some point in the future, not near but future, we're going to be able to see that in our hangar.
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so I want to leave some more for another interview in the future. I want you to get back to work and get us out our stuff. Specifically, I want you to kick the butt of the people in LA that are working on the Mustang and get that into my hangar.
The Mustang. It's funny you mentioned the P-51D earlier, and that's
I go back. I met Chuck Yeager at a very young age, and he was one of my dad's heroes. So because I hung out with my dad, he became one of mine. And the Mustang car, the Mustang plane, the Mustang horse has always been something that I loved. So they throw a name on a Mustang, throw the Mustang name on a ship, and I gotta have it.
Well,
so,
I know, right? The man who broke the sound barrier. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, he's P-51. I'm a big World War. When you said the 47, I was thinking the P-40 Warhawk and all those things. The P-38 Lightning. I remember. If you think about it, our dogfighting is kind of based on World War II. Era dogfighting, and that's
that was kind of when everybody was equal and you had different technologies. Some things were fast and light, like the Zero. Some things, like the P-47, were just brutal. Could take tons and tons of damage, right, and still fly.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's.
I met one of the best pilots of that plane too, Francis Gabreski. He lived on Long Island and he ran the Long Island Railroad for a while.
That's very cool.
Yeah, he was good. He crashed on a strafing run.
Did you got too close? Huh? Did you see the interview we did with Phil Miller about the Tanks Museum in Bovington?
No, I have not seen that yet. And the interview you did with Phil Miller, that was in the last episode of Wingman's Hangar, right?
Yeah, I think 1 or 2 ago. But we're gonna.
Okay.
We're big World War II nuts, and we're gonna go.
All right.
I'm going over to England this summer before Gamescom, and we're gonna go check out.
Oh.
We're gonna go check out the Tank Museum. They apparently have a tiger working in the.
Boddington.
Yeah, I think is it Bovington or Boddington?
Boddington.
I think it's Bovington. I think Boddington's is a beer.
Well, I think it's I don't know.
I think it's
I could go ask my roommate. She's from Grantham, England. She might know.
Somebody who's watching this will know.
No, but so I've got recently, because I'm doing the War Thunder stuff. Mm-hmm. So I've been playing that to get into, like, you know, getting used to dogfighting.
Sure.
Of course, none of those physics are going to be in space. But they started the tank stage of that, so I've been playing that, and then I got into World of Tanks. So I've been watching one guy. His name is the Mighty Jingles, and he goes through. If you look him up, it's Bohemian Eagle. Uh-huh. On YouTube. He goes into the tank museums and does YouTube shows on them, and he just did one recently. And you're going to a wonderful place. You got to get them to let you into what they call where they do the conservation section.
Sure.
Yeah, because it looked gorgeous.
Well, I used to watch. I've watched those shows like Tank Overhaul and stuff on the.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm into all that. My kids and I watch the military channel because I love all those stuff. You know, the greatest tank battles. Yeah, I'm in there.
You know, it's like I get a bunch of questions when I tell people, you know, I tweet it out or I ask around in the forums, what should I ask Eric? And everyone asks me to ask you questions that you can't answer because, I mean, I work for Apple. I understand why you don't do it. You don't make promises that you can't deliver. Right. You don't tell anybody what's coming out before it's done because it might change.
That's right. It's tough. It's because we have dates. It's not like we don't have schedules or dates. We do. It's just that when we want to be malleable and able to change if needed. If something comes up, like if the freelancer cockpit needs to be reworked, well, we want to be able to do that. And so that might have impact on other things that we have to do. Like it might help push dogfighting out a little, but so what? It makes the game better. And if at the end of the day we have to wait a couple months for something, you know, so what? The game's better. You know, people will forget all about those 2 months they had to wait because they're getting a badass product. And that's ultimately the bottom line. Don't suck, right? Make it badass. And that's what our goal is, to make it fun and make it badass no matter what.
Well, I'm glad that you guys are keeping up with the understanding that you only have one chance to make a first impression.
That's right.
And that's why you're holding it back. And I love that. And I also, on the other hand, where you can't say anything, it's Chris that actually gives little pieces of like what's coming away, like an upgrade to the Connie coming out. So it's like that's where I look for those things to be dropped. I don't look for you to do that because I know that you're really focused on the things that your team is delivering to us.
It's not just that. It's Chris's game. He can do whatever he wants.
I know.
He's the boss, man. You know.
All right.
So you know he's pretty generous though in what he lets us talk about. But you know Chris is very involved in everything we do, and so if he wants to drop a hint, he's more than welcome to drop a hint. But we're not gonna spoil it underneath. So, you know, it's his game.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna hold my questions to next time and say thank you very much for joining me.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys. You have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
I know.
He's the boss, man. You know.
All right.
So you know he's pretty generous though in what he lets us talk about. But you know Chris is very involved in everything we do. And so if he wants to drop a hint, he's more than welcome to drop a hint. But we're not gonna spoil it underneath. You know, it's his game.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna hold my questions to next time. and say thank you very much for joining me.
Okay. It's been
I
great.
really appreciate it. I have like 3 or 4 that I want to ask you, but I know that they're probably going to be easier to ask you after the April release of the documentary.
Who said anything about an April release?
You did, and Rob did, and Sandy did.
We said we're revealing at PAX East, and we're trying to get it out. But yeah, that's
all right. I understand. Just like the last time when you said you were going to have the Hanger module out, and you had to go and work overnight for a few days to try to get it out.
A few days. Like 6, 8 weeks to crunch for that. We got